there, welcome back to On the Flip Side. My name is Adam Shawwalker, your host, and today we are going to be checking out what is allegedly the first Godspeed You Black Emperor album, All Lights Fucked on the Hairy Amp Drooling. Now, there's been some heavy debate on the legitimacy of this album, with little to no confirmation directly from the band. All that there is to go on is the word of a Discord moderator who claims to know the band personally, saying that it is in fact real and that we shouldn't listen to it because the band would have released it had they wanted anyone to hear it. With that aside, I'm going to listen to it and review it anyway, because this is probably one of the most interesting lost recordings to surface in a very long time. So a minor bit of backstory, this album was allegedly just pressed onto 33 cassette tapes and was circulated between close friends and family. The tape itself had a minor partial leak about 10 years ago that contained snippets of the songs from this full release. So there does seem to be a little bit of a paper trail, not to mention the photos of the cassette art that were posted online that match the archived art from the Constellation Records database, which can be accessed via the Wayback Machine. The whole situation reminds me a bit of the Yandhi leak a few years ago, but with far more details and a bit more intrigue, and there's still lots of unanswered questions. Who leaked the tape? Why did it take so long to surface? Is this actually the real album, or is this one of the most elaborate hoaxes in recent history? Regardless though, we're going to dig into this one a bit, seeing as this is a very early release that I would consider a demo. I'm going to leave a lot of constructive criticism out of this, as this is so far removed from the band's current sound anyway, it doesn't really factor in all that much. There are 24 tracks on this album, many of which sound like someone toying with a 4-track recorder, especially during the mini interlude or ambient noise tracks. There's a very big shift in style from their later work. Gone are the mammoth-length tracks with sparse lyrics. Instead, we get these almost vocal-driven tracks as the main focus of the album. There's also a lot of tracks that sound like they're kind of recorded clips from maybe live shows or something, on top of the already sporadic themes that the album toys with that swing from ambient to noise to punk and various other in-betweens that are all very fresh shades of harsh. The album starts with some loose spoken word samples over top of some string samples which fade out and lead into the second track, Shot Through Tubes, which feels like a secondary intro track. There's a lot of moments where the ambient music kind of takes center stage, only to be broken apart by harsh noise tracks. The pacing is all over the place, but even still, the listen is pretty compelling. The track 333 is a numbing collage of noise that whirls and winds for minutes on end. This track does have a few breaks that would seemingly indicate the end of the song, but it actually just changes the format of the song right in the middle of the track. It's a really weird and jarring move, but it does keep you on your toes. The song leads into a series of what seems like interlude tracks: When All of the Furnaces Exploded, Beep, Hush, and Son of a Diplomat, Daughter of a Politician. These songs don't all necessarily feel like interludes, but the track lengths are all so short that it's hard to assign much weight to any one track. These songs consist mostly of calm, singer-centric tracks and more experimental noise and ambient songs with a touch more song structure than before. The next section of this album focuses a little bit more on longer tracks, starting with the song Glencairn 14. This song especially feels like a precursor of the later songs that Godspeed would put out, with some really cool atmospheric work on this song. The vocals are despondent and the guitar sounds like it's being sent through a really dingy amplifier that's being overdriven for every note. There's some cool track dynamics that are kind of hard to tell if they're intentional, but so much of this recording is just bleak and loading with a nihilistic approach that comes across very viscerally. The next song is Loose the Idiot Dogs. This is a much more experimental track that seems to be a mixture of heavy sample work and some incredibly dense reverbed vocals. This track does have the semblance of a melody in there somewhere, but it is very, very freeform. Diminishing Shine seems to be one of the most straightforward songs on the album, and is an incredibly pleasant listen overall. The sound on this song I would describe as cathartic and calming. The repetitive chords are beautiful and hypnotic, and are a really excellent peek into some of the early post-rock experiments this band have been toying with for almost 3 decades now. The way the track breaks down into a noise-heavy drone is very interesting too, as the song fades back for a spoken word midsection with pitch altering on the vocals that reminds me very heavily of the work on F-sharp, A-sharp Infinite. I do also like that this change in style kind of reflects the title of the track, with this diminishing shine of comfort into paranoia and desperation. The next song, Random Lovely Moncton Blues. This track feels far more improvisational than the last, which I think is intentional based on the song's title. There's a lot of heavy feedback at play in this track, with some slow building guitar that plays through the majority of the track. This is definitely a moment where where a song feels like someone kind of just messing with a tape recorder, but it's kind of hard to say. Dad Mom Daddy returns to a slightly more structured format, though it again is very freeform. It sounds like some of the vocals for the intro are reversed, which is kind of odd. After the intro, we get one of these twangy live singer-songwriter tracks that's a pretty intimate performance. It's really interesting, too, how they collage a lot of these live performances with noise and drone, and it's not like there's a high level of production, but it is all very tidy. Especially with this song that seems to be a three-part track, all of which are disconnected from the others but are all very much complementary. The song 333 frames per second starts with a live recording clip spliced into what I think is a different recording of a different track. This is one of the most dissonant and broad-sounding songs on the album. It's charming and yet simultaneously very cold. The song doesn't go on for very long, but it is one of the better tracks here. At this point, we get into another segment of the album where we've got a few more quick interlude songs. Revisionist Alternative Wounds to the Haircut Hit Head is a quick acoustic song that leads into Ditty for Moya, another track that blends drone with a post-folk sound. It's kind of an unfair comparison, but the vocals on this song unintentionally sound very similar to the vocals on Anal Cunt's Picnic of Love. Not saying much with that comparison, but I did feel like it kind of needed to be said. Buried Ton is an intense spoken word song with two people talking about drug use and the fear, which is an intense feeling of anxiety that is incredibly personal. It's a really weird listen that sounds like you're listening on something that you really aren't supposed to be hearing, like kind of a voyeuristic glimpse into some darker world. It's actually a very uncomfortable song to listen to up until the voices abruptly stop and a guitar part starts that sends the track off. There's so many moments on this album that seem to lean into the uncanny and the uncomfortable, none as so much as the hairy gut shine. From the first moment of this song, there is a tense hold on the listener that demands a response, like goosebumps that run through your entire body. There's more vocals here that feel like the audio from like a found footage movie. The whole song is anxiety-inducing to a degree that I did not expect. The tension does break at the end of the song with a pretty great noise rock segment that I find changes up the song enough to create even more unease, but not enough to break the tension that had been built up over the course of the track. I am incredibly impressed with this song. Deterior 23 is a mostly ambient interlude track that brings back the uncanny and claustrophobic soundscapes from before as a lead up to the next song, All Angels Gone, which seems like a bit more of a tentative return to normal. The normal here is obviously very skewed for a song that sounds like it could go very hand in hand with like a Daniel Johnston song. The track does indeed abandon this normal very quickly in favor of a more abstract drone, though this time it's almost more of a calming sound rather than unnerving. There's a lot of really interesting uses of flipped tracks playing along with what seems like gentle humming for the backing track. All of this does build to a point, and again ends to make way for more spoken word parts. It does seem like a lot of the longer songs on the album take the opportunity to mash multiple disconnected segments into one suite of tracks like this, which are all equally as compelling as they are uncomfortable. Deterior 17 and Deterior 3 are used more as like interlude tracks that together almost form their own drone suite, though Deterior 3 takes on a bit more of its own form with some more traditional instruments being used. Though despite the differences between the two, they seem inherently linked. I do wonder what the connection is between the numbers of all of these songs. Were these improv takes, or is there something more intentional here? Devils in the Church is a very short song at about a minute long that seems again like an improvisation or maybe a cut from a longer recording that serves as an intro to No Job, Dressed Like Shit, which feels like very uncannily like a proto version of the Dead Flag Blues. The song is haunting in its tripped out, knotted off reverb and harsh noise bath. The final song, Perfumed Pink Corpses from the Lips of Miss Celine Dion, seems to be another live show outtake that feels a little bit tacked on to the end here, but it is kind of cool. It's kind of like they've presented this incredibly otherworldly personal record, and then they end it with a very run-of-the-mill live punk track. The whole thing is kind of just mind-blowing that that's how they handle it. It's almost like they're trying to fake you out right at the end. So what is there to be said really about the legitimacy of these songs? I think that if these tracks are indeed a fabrication, that they're a very well done and compelling fake, and that the quality of these songs would not be lessened by a lack of authenticity. Now, with that being said, I do believe these songs are genuine. There are moments where this album perfectly captures raw dread, pure anxiety, and undiluted horror. Even with this album's flaws, there is a level of humanity and soulful connection that is missing from so many modern releases. All Lights Fucked on the Hairy Amp Drooling is a firm 9. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked this video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing. I appreciate the support so much. If you want to support the channel further, please check out my Instagram and Reverb store. Links to those are in the description below. And let me know what I should review next in the comments. Thank you all so much again, and we'll see you on the flip side.